I'm Renita Kalhorn, an executive coach, and I specialize in helping deep tech founders level up their leadership skills so they can execute on their vision. And as you know, your team is one of the most critical success factors for any startup. And then when you add deep tech into the mix, it's like this 4D chess game where you have limited resources, the stakes are high, and there's all kinds of uncertainty. You know, who do you hire and when? How do you attract talent with the right technical expertise but fit your culture? So that's what this conversation is going to be about with Maksym and Sebastian. And Maksym Plakhotnyuk is the founder and CEO of ATLANT 3D, which has developed atomic layer 3D printing. This is not your typical printer. And it revolutionizes material and device design. And Maksym was also the grand prize winner of Hello Tomorrow in 2021, 3 years ago. Sebastian Pollok is founding partner at Visionaries Tomorrow, an early-stage industrial transformation tech fund. And previously, he co-founded an e-commerce site, which he scaled to a team of 100 before being acquired. So we had a sort of a changing of the guard in the audience. I would like to see who's in the audience. If you're a founder with a team of smaller than 15, raise your hand, please. Aha, okay. Larger, more than 15? Few. How about investors? Corporates? Service providers? Great, good to know. Okay, let's dive in. You'll have a chance actually to ask questions. So there's the QR code if you want to start putting in your questions. So as I mentioned, one of the most important decisions deep tech founders make early on is who to hire and when. So Maksym, let's start with you. When in your company's journey did you make your first hire, and can you share what your thought process was around that?
All the first hires actually I made. I would say my first hires were the most successful. I started making mistakes a little bit later.
Okay.
So the first hires were the one that were the most successful. Actually, the people that I met, and they believe in the vision of the company. They really wanted to not just join because I had no name at that moment. Mm-hmm. So they wanted to join because there was a very bright idea and they saw the opportunities. And that's actually the best people that I found, and I would recommend to find for anyone else, because these people, they are resilient. They can go with you nevertheless or what's happening, and they are here not because only you, but because they believe in something bigger than just relations between two of us.
So these were people in your network already?
No, I think the best hire I made, initially it was my co-founder Ivan, and we never met with him. I just went to a conference in Barcelona, and I just pitched the idea that I had, and he approached me saying, Maksym, all of this would not work. I know how to make it. I was like, perfect, let's talk. So we went over beer in Barcelona, talking for like one evening, and in the morning we came with a completely different concept, and that we filed for a patent. So that was, I would say, my best hire from the very beginning. And going forward, the best hires were the people that really want to work with me, and I rejected also. There was one person, he still works in my company, in our company. So he applied for one of the positions and he didn't qualify. He was junior.
An engineer or technical?
Yes, engineer, yeah. And we rejected him, but he was so persistent. He just wrote to me like 5 times on LinkedIn saying, Maksym, I really want to work. I don't like my job currently. It's not like he was in marketing and he's engineer, so obviously he didn't like it. And then he came.
Obviously.
Yes. And he came and I said, look, you work for free for 1 month in marketing. So because you know it, and then let's see what happens. So he was really dedicated. Now he is one of the best. He has even the title lab daddy. So because he is in charge of the whole lab, he knows everything. He's so particular and so detailed that I have no one that I can trust that much what happened in the lab.
Wow.
Yes.
So it was really looking for the people who resonated with the vision and showed that commitment in some way.
Yes.
Excellent. Sebastian, what about you? Starting either with your own startup or what you've seen in your portfolio companies.
Sure. So, I mean, I was exactly where those of you who raised the hand when you said, you know, I'm still below 15 people on the team. I was there. And then at some point you grew the team up to 120, and with all the challenges that entailed. And, you know, obviously countless stories. But to me, the primary learnings were, you know, especially the first hires, so where you are in this sub 15, you know, that's super crucial. There's a reason why we talk about those as the culture carriers, and there might be a tendency at some point, because as a founder, you know, you have to juggle so many things at the same time, and there's so many fires that are burning hot, and at some point you may, and we made this mistake, my co-founder and I, at some point you say, okay, you know what, in the beginning we saw everyone that we hired, even if it was just for 5 or 10 minutes, but we made sure that we knew everyone that we're hiring and that we also gave our final go to that person. At some point, this was a bit further down the line, this was, I guess, when we were already at 70 or so, when we said, okay, you know what, by now we think that our leadership team, they got it. And then we said, you can do the hiring, we don't have to see the final candidates anymore. And that was a big mistake. So I think we left this going, or we had this going for a couple of weeks, and then we already noticed that leadership team oftentimes hires to fill a certain operational gap within the company. And they mean well, they don't want to hire people that don't fit the culture, but I think the primary criterion is always, you know, okay, I have this problem, I'm COO, I have this problem, I'm Chief Science Officer, whatever, and I have to fill this position. But then founders, that's exactly what we're there for, is not only doing that, but always making sure that it's the culture, especially in the beginning, is built the way that you want it to be built. And this can have a profound effect. We have, on the VC that I'm running, we have somebody who's been at the very early days of Google, and he actually says that the founders, that Larry and Sergey, that they didn't only do this for the first 100 people, but for the first 1,000. So they actually, in person, still did the interviews, the final interview with the final candidates until Google was at 1,000 employees. And that is so important because that's the nucleus of the company that you're building. And it's not just the nucleus in terms of culture, but it's also, you know, these could be the best possible advocates for the company. These are they are also recruiters for you if you're able to build and to tap into the networks of your employees, of your team members. That's more powerful than any headhunter. And last point on this, it's
Sebastian,
also,
can I
sure.
just jump in there? Because I'm curious, when you came in, you said for 5 or even 10 minutes, what were you looking for in these candidates? Would you ask questions? Was it just a feeling? Did you have a system?
It is, I mean, I guess people approach this very differently, or founders approach this very differently. I'm very much, when it comes to people, I'm very much gut feeling. So I definitely trust my gut feeling. In the beginning, that trust wasn't always right, but I think you also build it over time. You, Maksym, you also talked about this, also making mistakes. It's part of that journey. But then, I think it's really maybe also a founder's job to then point out what all the problems are that your company is facing, and to not sugarcoat things, but to actually do the complete opposite and say, hey, you know, you have applied for this position. I just want you to know these are the top pressing problems that we're facing within this position. Because in the end, I think that's what we need to do. We need to enable applicants to self-select if they really want to do this, if they're up for this mission, or if they're actually looking for something a bit more comfortable, because we all know that startup, that's not comfortable.
Yeah, actually, Maksym, you have a great example of this. Can you share what you would tell people, potential candidates?
Yes, we recently hired HR generalist, and she came on an interview, and first I thought it was not me, but my head of talent. She just said, "So Maksym, probably we should not talk about our company situation." I said, "What is our company situation?" That's the first question that I asked her. I said, "Look, her name is Renita. I think we need to tell every candidate that applies and want to work here the real situation. Just not to frighten all of you here, guys. It's a typical situation in any startup, so you have a limited runway. So our runway is about one year to 15 months. And some people do not fit to this. They immediately stressed. But this candidate, when I told her, look, Nadia, we have a runway. I didn't say 15 months, I said 12 months. So probably in half a year, it might be that we would inform that things, we don't get investment or whatever, and you need to quit again. She said, oh, there are so many people in the market that were lean off from other companies. So I don't see this any problem at all.
Particular risk.
Yes,
yeah.
I see it as a great opportunity. And that's exactly what type of people you need to look for. The people that can accept the challenge, you communicate to them all the problems that you have, and they actually the best come in and like giving you solutions. Because the problem of many founders and myself to a certain point that we all want to solve the problem by ourselves. So that's a problem of delegation, and it comes to some time to realize that you need to delegate, and you need to, if you hire someone, you need to trust that these people will find a solution. Of course, the trust can come with proved or lost, but that's another question. So we always need to place the best intentions, and it's a person that needs to demonstrate if they can deliver on this. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, because every startup has limited runway, right? It's not a secret. But somehow they feel like if they don't say anything, maybe it's, they can put it under the rug. But you actually bring out that commitment in people when you tell them up front.
Yes, we do. And also we use this instrument as a way of onboarding. So I did this for a few of new hires, especially like head-offs. So I see Bonnie sitting just next to me there. So Bonnie joined like 4 months ago, and I sent to a few people, Bonnie and other, a message where I said, guys, this is how I would work with you. So first month, you need to demonstrate your capabilities. I will not tell you what you need to do, how you need to do. You show your initiative and so on. Next month, I will criticize you heavy, give you a very harsh feedback. And then third month, we need to find a model where we collaborate and where you understand my intentions and I understand yours. And then we find a way to work. Of course, it's not always precise 3 months, but I found when I didn't do this approach with some people, some actually found a way to work well in the team, some didn't. And I find this as one of the instruments to immediately set expectations that we can find the best model of collaboration together.
That's so key, because I think what people really like is some level of certainty. So even just knowing what the plan is, even if it's harsh feedback, that's really helpful for people to know. Sebastian, do you have anything to add?
I was just wondering, Bonnie, if you're still in the harsh criticism phase.
She's here sporting.
Actually, Bonnie does really well. That's one of other very great hire we did. So if I continue a little bit. So just another way how we did great hires is spotting great people and chasing them even for a few years. So I have few people like this, Bonnie one of them, and Benjamin, he's also here. So I was chasing them for a few years. You keep the communication. It's like either communication with investors, you need also to speak with potential hires that you see a big potential, almost the same way as
Sure.
investor, because these people, they spend their few years with you, or even more. They trust you, and you need to treat them the same way.
And how would you find them to begin with?
It's really, I think it's, as Sebastian said, it's a gut feeling. You could observe, sometimes these people are either too early or I think usually it's too early. You just can see, okay, probably I cannot hire this person because this is not the right moment, but when the right moment comes, I felt it. So I think everyone can feel and see, okay, this is probably the right moment to approach. So like, I think half a year ago, I approached to Bonnie, and I asked Bonnie, I might look for the candidate. Would you be interested to discuss? She's like, yeah, Maksym, I'm actually interested. So when we started conversation, it happened like within, I think, few weeks, right? Yeah.
So
Nice.
not just having a pipe drive for customers or pipe drive for investors, but also pipe drive for talents. 100% agree.
I would say be careful in hiring people just from blind spot through. You need to announce position. You need to hire through HR instrument. But as Sebastian said, be very careful whom you select. And I do interview everyone until now, and I will continue interviewing because it's a really critical. One person, the wrong person that enters to the company can destroy the whole culture or even the company. It's really critical.
It's really the company
Yes.
DNA, isn't it?
Yes.
Especially those early hires.
And most likely, I mean, it will also, you will probably always feel a bit overstretched, and I think that's actually good as a startup. So it creates this tension where you feel like, I mean, we should probably have somebody for this position, but we haven't had that person for the last 6 months. Then those 6 months, that was probably good that you didn't hire 6 months ago, but that you first found out what is it actually that the organization needs. Let's try to overstretch ourselves. That's very much startup and entrepreneurship spirit, and not making that mistake that large corporates typically make, where they have too many people for a job. On the startup side, it's typically the opposite. So you will have too few people for a given job. But I would say that's to some extent that's normal.
Yeah. What I found with my clients is it makes them very resourceful. So they actually look, what is the job that's required, and sometimes they can, split up a job into different people.
And then once you make the hire, then making sure that that's this 100% fit, that this is somebody who you don't have to pull, but that's somebody that's pulling you. So somebody who is already 24 months in the future because of either past experience or ideally and massive ambition. It could also just be the massive ambition part that is then making sure that that person, because it's somebody who's a self-starter and has that massive ambition, just pulls you. You don't, that's what you want as a founder. You have so many things that keep you busy day and night. So trying to cross things off that list and having somebody you can fully trust on something, that's the goal.
Yeah. Taking that little bit of extra time and effort to find the right person can buy you so much time in the future.
And sorry, I guess we said we want to structure this as a dinner conversation. So now, once again, I had one thought, which is actually more towards the opposite end, which will also happen, that you have somebody where you feel, okay, doing an okay job, but not pulling, not being so ambitious. And in my past, I also worked with somebody who actually had a very radical way of dealing with these situations. So he always said, yeah, it would feel more comfortable if although this person is it's like average performing, let's leave the person in until we found somebody else. But what he said is, no, we have to let that person go now. And that will create lots of tension, and it will feel very, very uncomfortable. But that will guarantee that we will put this higher as top priority and then fill this position.
Sort of a forcing function, right? Yeah. To find the right person. Yeah. So what have been some effective ways for you to identify this talent? I know, Maksym, you've said that sometimes they're in your network, but after a certain point, how are you finding the people with the specific skills and expertise you need? Are you on LinkedIn? Are you at conferences? What's sort of been your process?
I would say I mixed all of this. At the beginning, it was just a gut feeling. Then what I realized that
A gut feeling when you would meet somebody
yeah,
just naturally.
let's say yes, you feel like this is your person. You give the blunt truth, and the person accepts without some emotions, and they come to you next day saying, "Maksym, this is my work plan. This is how I think can be resolved." This is immediately
That's the dream.
this is the dream situation when a person, instead of taking your feedback very emotionally, they receive it right way. So how to spot this? It's not easy. I build a process when I'm jumping very fast in. I would say fall in love with a lot of people. So I build a process that I have in team few people that I trust their view, and they give me also feedback. Maksym, I see the drawbacks here, there. Then we analyze how much this is important, that this drawback can impact or not. And it doesn't mean we hire only ideal people. We are not ideal. We are all human. We hire the people that their value is higher than the damage that they create. This is the mindset we all need to say. We all have two sides of the coin, yes. But in this situation, the best is to evaluate and see what potential the person can bring, what value can a person bring. And that's important. Another part, what I recently, I would say, for 1.5 years, been developing, many founders do not know how to distribute the roles and how to even define who can do what. I was one of them, so I developed basically the structured approach, defining functions, and then I stack them. And then based on these functions, I start defining roles, and it was really well aligned what actually market offers. And if you find very entrepreneurial people, they actually T-shaped, so you can they can stretch. They have a field of expertise, but they can also stretch. And this is one of the very important capability of hires in an early stage startup. Don't look for very narrow experts unless it's your core technology. Look for the T-shaped people. I don't know who knows or doesn't know what is a T-shaped expert. So it's a T-shape, it's you have expertise in the field, and then a person can understand the landscape as well. So it's very important. Even our engineers who are expert in certain field, we try to make them T-shape or select them T-shape, because this creates a really different dynamic. I believe you saw my LinkedIn post about mission aligned teams. So instead of giving the very narrow task to a specific person, you build a mission or the goal, and these people build themselves the process, and they really work without you. And this is something that I would recommend anyone to achieve. We didn't achieve this completely, but I could see in few teams that we implemented this, it really works well. And this is where the T-shaped people are really important.
Also, if you pivot, then you need people who can adapt also.
Yeah.
And Maksym, what you just said, this touches upon something that is something that will probably happen to everyone who's still in the below 15 camp and who will then at some point get into the above 15 camp, which is that some sort of silo thinking, unfortunately, always arises when, and one sign for me was when some of my co-entrepreneurs, my team members, when they suddenly didn't talk of Alex anymore, but they said operations or marketing. So they didn't talk about people anymore, but suddenly they were departments and teams. So having these task forces, these mission-aligned teams, is one way of dealing with it. You can have some other more operational hacks, as in we always did this mystery lunch where we at least wanted to make sure that within a company of 120 that everyone still knew each other. So every Wednesday or so, people just went out in smaller groups, randomly assembled for lunch together. So suddenly, marketing turned back into Clara, and operations turned back into Alex, which is good, because otherwise you don't think about the people anymore, but about, oh, this is mine, this is theirs. That's something, politics, which obviously you don't want in your company.
I love that as a signal when people start referring to the function instead of actual people. Then you know that they've depersonalized the relationships.
I can confirm we have, at this moment, we achieved to this point as well. So it's really, it's really different attitude, it's really different dynamics. When you don't have one person and you associate everything with one person, but you can actually assign one or another person and they can substitute or they can work really well and they understand, okay, this is I'm in charge, this is that person is in charge, and it's really, really getting well.
And obviously this is also where that huge power of defining values and your ethos as a company, where that comes in. And it's something that I think most founders, we kind of take for granted, but then sometimes because we take it for so granted, we skip this step. But it's so crucial to not only write down this, in our case, for example, company first, no ego, and then if you live it and you can also refer to it, then people get it that, oh, actually I shouldn't be talking about and thinking about me being on the tech side, this person being on the product side, that person being on the marketing side. But in the end, we're one company, and then OKRs come in or massive goals. In the case of Proxima Fusion, so the fund that I'm running, Visionaries tomorrow, is investing in industrial deep tech. So we, for example, invested into a company called Proxima Fusion, doing fusion, and their goal, and it's a massive one, and it's definitely a stretch goal. But they say, until 2031, we want to have a working commercial fusion plant live. It's massive. That's definitely a stretch goal. It's definitely a moonshot. But that motivates the entire company. It brings everyone together, because now suddenly it's not about I'm doing this, you're doing that, but it's all of us together working for this one goal.
So how do you actually, you said you have to walk and talk the values. I'm really curious about how that plays out. How do you show up in meetings? How do you think about that? You said no ego was one of your values, but that could mean so much or so many different things to people. How do you help them really embody the values?
As always, that's also something that all of you who are starting a company or have started a company that you will confirm. It starts with founders. So as a founder, you are the walking role model of your company. And people will look at you. You are on stage every day, whether or not you want it. It's a fact. So how you behave yourself, point number one. With my co-founder Leah, when I was still running my company, and we also oftentimes we made decisions, and these were very public decisions, where everyone in the company knew, okay, I would keep the product team, because I always loved product, but then handed it over to Leah because it made sense for the company. So that's number one. Then number two, also making that part of the feedback conversation. So when you do feedback, it's not only about skills, but it's also about the values of the company. So making that part of the feedback conversations. And then third, also these are not so pretty moments, but they can also be pretty. So the not so pretty moments are when you have to let somebody go. The pretty moments are when you can promote somebody. So these are great moments of truth within a company when it's very apparent that somebody, must have done something right, so is being promoted, or has done something not so right and is being let go. Using those moments of truth to also double down on the values and saying, hey, this is somebody, we've all witnessed it, but I just want to point it out. She or he has gone above and beyond himself on this, has acted in a complete company-first way, no ego, or, pointing out the inverse when it's about having let somebody go.
Makes sense. And Maksym, you have 40 people on your team now with 20 nationalities.
Yes.
and they're coming
Yes.
from around the world. So how do you go about creating team cohesion and inclusiveness?
I would say it's not easy, but it's very interesting. First of all,
And you're based in Denmark.
yes, we are based in Denmark. I'm Ukrainian, and the team, I think, 22 nationalities from Chinese, India, Arabic countries, Europe, US, all over the world. I think the first rule for international team is to show respect, because respect is the key. You don't know the people background. You can always embarrass someone. I'm not talking myself, but it could be happen with anyone. You can cross some personal, cultural barriers that you don't know, and the most important that you tell these people, like, guys, if we cross your boundaries or your cultural norms, just let us know. We are not here to offend you, whatever. Anyway, it's not avoidable, but at this moment, I would say we have a really, really interesting combination and really direct communication about these things. I would say, just give you an example, we have a Muslim person, and he really religious. So he at the beginning went for praying like in very weird places in the company. I spotted this and I approached to him and said, look, please don't do this. Select any meeting room, just close the curtain. We respect your religion. Go and just place a sticker on the wall or on the door. You need to do that. Just don't do in some weird places. And he really...
So in a place where there are a lot of people walking by.
Yes. So we, by showing this type of examples, this is how we demonstrate that we respect. And the person absolutely has amazing attitude. If he would act differently, because he came to me, Saint Maksym, I was in Canada, it was absolutely forbidden to do at the campus. I said, we are not in Canada, we're in Denmark, and we respect your values. So if you respect our values, we show respect to each other. This is one of the key elements in the international environment. Of course, we time to time make jokes. For example, like to Benjamin, he's French, so we make jokes about French. He makes jokes about Ukrainian. So kind of, you don't need to make really strict things, but it's some very minor things, but of course you test the jokes on if you see the person can perceive them in a positive manner. So don't stretch also. Yeah. But again, I will repeat myself. It's all about respect to when you have a very international team, when you don't know the boundaries of other people, and the best way to make people align is to trust them and see how you can make them integrated. Another very good experience in international teams is we had like international dinners where we invited them all and asked them to bring 1 or 2 dishes of your country. It was one of the most tremendous experience. People were so excited. They want to share what's their heritage, what they do. We had like a long table with Persian food, with some Turkish,
food is always a bonding
Indian,
experience, isn't it?
Chinese, Ukrainian, French.
Wow.
It was really cool.
That's great and pretty simple.
Yes,
but
like
simple
you don't
works.
need to bring anything very complicated, very simple things. So, yeah.
Like similarly simple is if you have national holidays or whoever feels like celebrating a special day from their own home country. Also, not only having to do it at home, but also bringing it to the company, bringing some food. So either doing it one night with all nationalities, or actually having those special moments where the entire company can also celebrate a certain holiday, for example.
Yeah.
We didn't do that particularly because I would say we don't remember and we don't know all the holidays. We need a separate person that will only check when we this holiday, but we ask that specific person from that country, so that they inform us, or they even post in general chat, okay, this is today like Chinese New Year, or this is, I don't know, I think there is a Muslim holiday these days, right?
Ramadan?
Yes, Ramadan. What we did introduce, and it also works well, whenever we travel and whenever people travel to their home country, they bring snacks, some sweets or whatever. We had even a problem during January that people brought snacks every day. So I even had to place a ban saying, guys, we're going to be very fat here soon. So please, let's switch instead of, or place these sweets on hold for now.
Exercises,
yes,
national
let's
exercises.
do the exercising.
Okay, so switching gears just a little bit, what about hiring senior executives? So that at a certain point in your scaling, you need to bring in maybe someone who's more experienced, who has industry contacts. And what I've seen with my clients is this can be a really tricky transition because they do need somebody with that industry experience and the network, but often they don't fit with the culture. They don't know how to find out the problems of customers. So what's been, let's start with you, Sebastian, your experience either with your company or your portfolio companies in particular?
The experience has been that it is indeed a tricky situation. So I've seen it gone wrong multiple times, where seniority, is something nice on paper, but if then seniority leads to somebody being not in startup founder mode and not getting this dynamic feel and the huge level of ambition, then that has definitely left companies having to let go of that very expensive hire after already 6 months, 9 months. So I'm not even sure how to answer this, besides that it is a tricky situation and you will run into it because at some point the just ambition and just trying to go for it is probably not enough anymore, and you want to start selling to large corporates, and then unfortunately that they value if they have somebody of equal seniority on the other side. So it's really about this gut feeling. It's about doing a ton of references, about maybe starting to work together more on a project basis, and only then committing to that person coming on board as full part of the team.
That's what I was going to say, really making sure you do your due diligence, because I think sometimes as founders they feel a little bit too, they're giving too much authority to the senior executive because they have so much experience, and they don't ask maybe the uncomfortable questions. They don't suggest a more incremental approach, like working on a project together. Maksym, do you have anything to add?
I had a similar experience, mostly negative, I would say. The problem here that even with people senior, they mostly coming from corporate world. They used to work in very defined space, very relaxed, and they have a bunch of people that they have been doing some minor work for them or specific task. I probably failed with hiring, I think, 4 people over the last 2 years, and I decided at this moment to take another approach. I rather select more ambitious or promising person like I have now. They don't have that much experience, but they are easily understand what needs to be done. They are flexible. They are changing their approach on a second. And I did the different approach in this way. I assign advisor to that person, like from a board of directors or from an advisory board, and this person mentor this. Like I have a case with Bonnie, with Benjamin, with our VP of technology that will join as a head of technology initially. I assign this senior person, advisor, to those junior head of technology or
so someone
initiatives.
On the team, or you said also maybe on the board?
Basically, I couple them. It's mentorship programs, and it works way better. So they share the experience. They don't need to do the work. But my head of technology or application or strategic initiatives, they actually learning very fast. Most people right now, they are really curious. They want to learn, and they gain this experience from them. And what is very important me as a founder in this situation, I don't place that high expectations to them if I would place to a more senior person, because when you have a senior person join, you immediately have a huge level of expectations. Usually they do not perform.
That's
so
right.
You have a huge gap of expectations. When you have a more junior manager, head of the team, you give them the freedom to make mistakes, and these mistakes they learn very fast, so it's actually part of their journey. So you don't judge them, you just like, okay, it happened, what's your plan? How you would resolve it? And these things works way better when you have a senior advising, giving direction, and a junior manager actually driving things. Different dynamic, absolutely different.
Oh, that's a great solution, because now you have the drive and the energy
Yes.
and the creativity of the more junior person
Yep.
with someone who's just sort of acting as guardrails to make sure they don't do anything really crazy.
Yes. We also recently introduced the ambassador program where we basically look for the experts in the field exactly to mentor specific direction in the team. So we kind of couple again, so it's not only the board or advisory board, it's even random, I wouldn't call random, but just very often people that we didn't
External.
know, they just also see the vision of the company, they want to help, and we couple them with the team, and they start helping to drive.
Brilliant.
So it's kind of network effect.
I think I like that approach. I still see that you will run into situations, Proxima Fusion, I already talked about them, for example, where making a very senior hire, they hired somebody who ran production at SpaceX, so very, very, very senior hire, where that is now sending tremendous signals to investors, to customers, as in to the government, to also to the team. So this
Sending positive signals.
Positive signals. So I think here and there you will still need to.
I see your point.
Make that jump.
Yeah. So I did one hire recently, and I had to let this person go. That person had a good cultural fit and relevant experience, and I would say the profile would really send the message as well externally and internally. But I just told that person, look, we need to end up here. It's not because I don't like what you do, because I hire you too early. So that person would work the best if there is already a team of 10. They already have the process and they are really well aligned. And that person comes, instead of me making decisions where to go, this person actually make decisions. And I could trust those decisions.
Yeah. No, that makes complete sense. And maybe a good proxy, a good way of checking if who you're potentially hiring is actually up for the mission is to drastically reduce salary to a level that's complementary to a startup level, and upping the level of equity. So I think that person, for example, at Proxima, who came from SpaceX, had an insane salary, and now at Proxima he doesn't, but he has shares. So I think if you as somebody who's coming on board at a startup who's been in a senior leadership position before, if you're doing that at this level of lower salary, higher equity, then you must really mean it. So I think that's also a way of self-selecting.
Mm-hmm. So it's really a balancing act between the optics, the value of having somebody from a brand name with that expertise, but then also the potential mismatch of culture.
Yeah. I think what Sebastian referred also, it really depends on the size of the team. I don't know what the size of the Proxima, it's probably like...
They're 75.
Okay,
yeah.
so
when you cross the bar 50, then this type of approach is more favorable. When the team is like 20, 40, I would say, I would challenge this approach, because there are not so many people that you need senior to manage, and either they are really startup driven and they can be hands-on, then it can work. Otherwise, it doesn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Agreed.
So we're wrapping up here, but I wanted to give Maksym an opportunity to share a teaser,
Yes.
basically.
I just want to invite you all at 2 o'clock to our booth E74. We are going to make a big announcement and present something very interesting out of this space. So in the basement, to the right, you can find ATLANT 3D, and bring your friends or whoever you want, and you would see something that I would say first in the history of humankind. So I'm serious about that. So please come, and you're welcome to join something very unique.
Thank you. So thank you, everybody, for joining. I hope I addressed all of your questions one way or another, and feel free to follow up with any of us afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.